Hey everybody, how's it going? This is part 2 of a Let's Make Some Pathfinders and Let's Make a Model series. And they're base coated, just like I said they would be. I assembled the gun drone, and I put 2 of the guys in the bases like I said I would, just for comparison, and I base coated them. We got the gun arms separate still. I did not glue anything. The only thing I assembled completely was the Pathfinder. I did not assemble any of the others, not the Pathfinder, the gun drone. I did not assemble any of the Pathfinders. So I got the arms separate, they're cleaned up and base coated. And when you're base coating, if you're gonna base coat a model without putting it on a base, you're gonna have to hold it like so minimalistically to paint the rest of the model. But it's gonna take a little longer because you have to paint the model, let it dry completely, then hold the part you just base coated and base coat the rest of the model. This is the Shazwi, he's one piece. And if you notice, the Shazwi and a lot of my guys have some pewter peeking out of them. That's okay. I've gotten the model essentially 98-99% base coated. That's enough to move on to your next step. You don't have to make it perfect, and with pewter it's hard to make it perfect because as you handle pewter, especially the base coat, pretty much only the base coat I really notices with, but it can happen with other coats, is that the paint will wear off a lot easier and very fast. So you want to be careful with that. So even if you think you got it perfectly done, if you're handling the model a lot while you're painting, before you get to that area, you may wear some of the paint off, so just reapply the base coat or just paint right over that area if it's not that big, and you'll be okay. With plastic holds paint very well, so you really can get a nice base paint on there, no problem. I use the paintbrush. Some people will spray base. It's cold. It's getting colder out. I don't want to go into the shed to spray base paint. So, or spray paint as a base color. So I use my Chaos Black paint, which is fine. You can paint. A lot of people like to spray base. Also, a lot of people like to just paint it on. Whatever your preferences are, whatever works for you, you do. There's no right or wrong way to paint a model. The only thing that's right or wrong is doing techniques. Like, you have to dry brush. You have to do a certain way to dry brush. You can't dry brush a different way other than how dry brushing is done. You can't wet blend it a certain way different than how wet blending is supposed to be done. But you can apply whatever techniques you want in whatever order you want, as long as you get the result that you like, that you want, that works for you. So aside from techniques, there's no real right way to paint the model, just right way to apply proper technique to certain things. But you don't even need proper technique, so it doesn't even matter, as long as you get what you like. And I just painted them with this paintbrush. It's worn out. It's a worn out paintbrush. It doesn't hold an edge or a tip. You can leave in focus. But I like it. If I get it jammed into parts of a model, or if I don't worry about it too much because it is worn out. It's fairly resilient though. It's also good for dry brushing. I have dry brush brushes. I essentially have the new Games Workshop paint brushes because I like to feel them the way they rest in your hands. I'll just blow out the brushes. They're cool. I use them, but I like using this guy a lot. It's just, I'm a creature of habit. I've been using this for a while, so I continue to use it. Now, of course, this isn't my fine detail brush. This is what I put the base coat on and the base color on. So like for red, before I do any highlight, it's not so much highlight, but if I'm going to do like a base of red on like a large area, I would do it on this brush. Some veteran painters out there, or some expert painters, may be cringing at this brush. Sorry if you are, but this is the brush I use for most of my painting, as far as base paint and base color goes. After that, for detail and stuff, I use, of course, a fine detail brush, but I use this big brush for base coating most everything. I have a bigger brush that I use, and sometimes I use the bigger brush to paint the bigger models with a base coat and whatnot. And for dry brushing sometimes, when I don't want to use my dry brush because I'm dumb like that. Anyway, gluing the model onto the base is a great way to save time, so you can base coat the entire thing at once. You see the little hole on the arm is left without any paint in it, or it's a little paint in it. When you assemble models, now I kind of didn't follow this on the arm itself, but because it has a little nub that'll connect into it if it'll focus. Right there. And I painted it black. There's a chunk of pewter that I missed. Oh well. With pewter, and with plastic, but I find more so with pewter, you get a better bond with your super glue, or your Zap-A-Gap, which is essentially super glue. If you glue raw pewter to raw pewter, then painted pewter to raw pewter, or painted pewter to painted pewter. So if you're noticing that it's not holding well, or not really making a hole at all, you might want to pin it, as well as take a file to the area that you're gluing, get the paint off the area, glue it on, and if any of the pewter is exposed because you took up a little bit too much paint, then you can just, touch up the paint right there. Whatever works for you. One thing I will say is that you might not want to, with pewter models like Tech Priests, or with models that have rolled bottoms, be they plastic or whatnot, you may not want to put them on the base right away because you can't get to the detail. So I have an example on hand. This guy. He has like a rolled bottom, so much like a Tech Priest would have, or the Dark Angel would have, or other models would have, or like a tabard that somebody might have. And you notice when you glue them onto the base, you really can't see under there that well. There's not much detail to be under here, but if like the robe was open and there were legs and stuff and detail in there, it'd be a little hard to get to while the model's on the base. So for models like this, I would suggest not putting them on the base, at least until you got the bottom part done, and then you put them on the base if you want to. But I'm not a fan of putting them on the base until the base is done anyway. I only really do that with slotted bases, and I don't even glue them to the base until they're done being painted. So this is a rarity for me. I did this with the Calidus Assassin, and I do with a few models that don't have a much draping down here, so there's, because I'll be able to get into there just fine without any worries, because it's not like he has like a tabard or a robe bottom or a skirting type of bottom to worry about. But normally I paint them like this. I paint them off the base. I will get completely done, then glue it to the base, and then since it's a slotted base, then I'll do the base afterwards. If it's not a slotted base, I'll do the base completely first, and then paint up the model, and then glue them to the base. But that's just me. That's just how I do it. You have to find a way that's right for you. So now, what's the next step? A little bit of ramble there. Next step will be to paint the base coat of the one type of color on there. Now, if you see my Farsight, or if you see my Farsight video, you'll see the color scheme is Farsight colors, gray and red. The red is the armor, so the gray is going to be the cloth. So, what I'm going to do, because I'm going to dry brush the gray onto this model, and maybe dry brush some highlights onto it too, who knows, for the gray cloth, I'm going to do the gray first. That way, if I get a little messy, I don't worry about it. I do get messy when I paint, so I'm going to do the messy stuff first, which is going to be the gray cloth. And then once that's all said and done, I can use my fine brush to do the armor the way I want to do it. Just make it like hard edges and not dry brush type, just paint it on. So what I'm going to do is the gray first on all the models, including the gun drone. There's going to be a dry brush of gray. It's going to be Codex gray. If I do any highlights on it, it'll be with Fortress gray. So those are the two colors I'm going to use. I'm going to do all the cloth for all four pieces, the arms and all four models, and the arms and the gun drone. And then when that's done, I'll show you what the model looks like, and then talk about where I'm going to go on from there. So that's pretty much it. Hope you're enjoying, and take it easy.